Sydney is getting a new metro line, and not this one. In fact, it's actually a completely brand new metro line out in Western Sydney known as the Sydney Metro Western Sydney Airport line. Some of you may or may not know about it, but it's a brand new line that is set to next open as part of the Sydney Metro project, likely in April of 2027. In this video, we'll be covering the huge updates on the brand new line, including the very first train being rolled out of the workshops and seen in Germany transferred by a freight train. Also as well, we'll be taking a look at possible future extensions, including one to Leppington Station, but not by train and instead by metro, going against what many people have originally been proposing. We'll start off with the biggest piece of news, and that's that we have now seen the very first Siemens Inspiro metro train be rolled out of the workshops in Germany, meaning it is slowly on its way to Australia. It'll be formed of a new 3-car train built by Siemens, and with these videos seen here, this is a rough idea of what it will look like with a mock-up that was shown a few months ago by Sydney Metro.
It's a full-size replica that we're using for testing, checking everything's okay before they go into production, and we're soon going to have 12 brand new 3-carriage trains operating on this line. Let's take a look around.
If you wish, once you're done with this video, you can go and check out the full video available at the top right of the screen. A massive thanks to Transport for New South Wales for the footage of that video there. Siemens Germany will be producing 12 automated 3-car Siemens Inspiro trains to run on the 23-kilometre Western Sydney Airport line. A few notable features of the trains will be that they're obviously driverless, as well as the fact that they are including transverse and longitudinal seating, which is a change that I'm very happy to see. Another big feature is that we'll see new PID screens inside the train that'll display the departures from Western Sydney Airport. Another thing as well, which is quite minor but big to me, is that the information screens displayed in the middle of the carriage are no longer dot matrix and now instead LED panels, which is something that I have been complaining about with the existing Sydney Metro rolling stock. Overall, the design of the new Siemens Inspiro trains are very nice, and I must say they're actually quite a lot better than the existing Ulster Metropolis trains, as in my opinion, the interior especially lacks a lot of character, and I feel like it should have had some transverse seating, as to be fair, it'll take an hour and a half to travel from Bankstown through the Tallawong. Imagine going on that journey on longitudinal seating, and as well because the seats are quite rock hard. Moving back over to the new line itself, the line will have a total of 6 stations with 23 kilometres of track or 14 miles of track. The 6 new stations include the existing St Mary's station, set to be heavily upgraded to change with the existing heavy rail network, Orchard Hills, Luddenham, Airport Business Park, Airport Terminal and Bradfield, which is the existing terminus for the line, set to be extended possibly in the future down towards Macarthur, or to Leppington, which is the proposal I'll be talking about later in this video. A majority of the line will be underground, however some parts of it are actually above ground with stations completely being built outside, such as Luddenham and Airport Business Park. Going back to what I was mentioning before, the line is now set to open in April of 2027, which is much later than the original planned 2026 opening date. This is primarily due to cost blowouts and of course COVID lockdowns a number of years ago. One major problem about this is that Western Sydney Airport will open next year in 2026, or at least is planned to, as the airport is just about complete, as we saw just a few weeks ago the very first proper plane landing at Western Sydney Airport. This means we'll likely be put on to yet again more buses like South West Link, which will be replacing the brand new metro line which has been delayed. This means that passengers heading to Western Sydney International Airport will have to travel by bus instead of a futuristic metro for the first few months of operation. Once the line eventually opens, there are currently provisions in place to allow for a future extension beyond Bradfield, and majority of people are suggesting a line extended down to Macarthur to connect with the existing heavy rail network. However, I'm actually suggesting a small extension of just one station of the metro line through to Leppington. As seen on the screen here, the metro line would go underneath the existing Rossmore yard and would utilise the 2 middle platforms at Leppington Station, or platforms 2 and 3. The SydneyTrains line would still use platforms 1 and 4, meaning that the line would still reach out towards Leppington, and as well, Rossmore Yard would not be affected by this extension, and would instead see the existing heavy rail line move slightly to allow for the new metro line to descend down into new tunnels heading towards Bradfield. I'm actually very surprised that this wasn't in the original planning, as when they began planning for the new Western Sydney Airport line, it was right around the time that they were completing the South West Rail link between Glenfield and Leppington, and they easily could have extended the line through the plans from Bradfield through to Leppington to allow for a metro train line connection similar to Chatswood. Having a look at this map here, it's approximately 9 kilometers away, and to be honest, for anyone who's quite fit, such as myself, I could probably run there in about an hour's time. Whilst editing this video, I actually thought of a great idea of what they could have done with Western Sydney Airport's public transport, and on this graphic here, which I made quite quickly, so apologies for it looking quite rushed, you can see that instead the train line would run to the new airport terminal, and in fact there would not be any M2 Western Sydney Airport line, and instead the existing M1 Northwest and Bankstown line would be extended from Tallawong through to Schofield, which is already an extension plan that they are talking about, but beyond Schofield it would go down towards St Mary's, interchanging with the T1 Western line and possibly the Blue Mountains Intercity line, then using the existing stations already built along the Western Sydney Airport corridor for the M2 down to the Western Sydney Airport terminal, where there would be a major interchange for the airport and also with the existing SydneyTrains line. Another big change is that the T2 line would no longer serve the line down towards Leppington, and instead the T8 line would serve it, meaning that you could board a train from Western Sydney Airport terminal and catch it all the way to Sydney Kingsford Smith Airport on the exact same train in about an hour's time. This is something that a lot of people have been talking about and would be a great idea in my opinion. Bradfield Station would remain in this plan, however would be built above ground or at least partially underground as part of a Sydney train station. The train line can either go above or underground between Rossmore Yard or underneath Rossmore Yard, which would mean there would be no major changes to the yard. And actually, Rossmore Yard was already built with 2 extra tracks in the middle extending on a bit further to allow for future extensions on the line, so it wouldn't be that difficult to change it all up. Leppington Station would see the exact same layout, however with a different service pattern. The 2 middle platforms, marked with the T5, would see the T5 line terminating at Leppington instead of going to the new airport to prevent any congestion along the line in peak times or where they may need a whole lot of trains, and the T8 line would use platforms 1 and 4 on the outer sides. Then from there, it would continue on to the airport and the city. T2 services would instead run down to Campbelltown and Macarthur all day, which is currently what the T8 line does, and with some peak services on the T8 line still going down to Campbelltown and Macarthur, as those services are quite popular at the moment. Another possible plan could be to extend the M1 line from Bankstown through Liverpool to the new airport, however current provisions prevent that from happening and it would be much easier to extend the line from Tallawong. Since the Western Sydney Airport Metro line is already planned to have 12 new trains for the M2 line, I would suggest also adding 12 new trains to the existing M1 line, which would mean an order of 12 new Ulster Metropolis trains. I'm not quite sure on the position of the contract, however since the line is still quite new and the trains are still quite new on the M1, there's a pretty good chance that they do still have a contract in place that could allow them in some form to order more trains for the line, as they have done so recently, as they currently have 2 batches of trains, with the original being the first 23 for the Northwest line, and the remainder being for the new City and Southwest line. I have a pretty high suspicion that a few years after they open the new Western Sydney Airport line, there'll be a lot of debate about what the new extension could be, whether it could be what I've proposed so far, extensions down to Macarthur, or even to completely new places that we haven't even thought of yet. Let me know what you think about the potential for extensions or changes to the existing new M2 Western Sydney Airport line, and what you would do yourself in the comments below. Summing it all up, after taking a look at the huge updates for the line, as well as future plans for the line that I have proposed, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and thank you all very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the new line in the comments below, and what you think of my proposals, and if you have any changes, as I would love a bit of criticism on my existing plan. Also let me know in the comments below if you have any other plans yourself, such as if you have a different idea for the extension for Bankstown through to the airport, or a completely brand new metro line that we haven't even spoken of yet. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already to help us reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of next year. I'd like to take a quick moment to thank you all very much for 9,000 subscribers, which we achieved yesterday at the time of recording this video, and I hope for us to reach 10,000 soon as we build a bigger community. I hope you all very much enjoyed this video, and let me know if you'd like to see more videos such as this, and as well as frequent updates on the Western Sydney Airport Metro line as we get closer to the opening. Just as a quick bonus, as some people have been asking me, I currently have 4 more videos planned for the rest of 2025, which will be going out weekly every Saturday afternoon at around 4 PM. I'll be taking a 2-week break along Christmas before I'll start my Melbourne series, where I'll be heading down to check out the new metro tunnel as well as the rest of their public transport network. I cannot wait to provide you more updates on that in the coming weeks. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Train mobilizing.